Hi, welcome to the Retirement Railroad Matinee Modeling Tip of the Day. I'm Steve, and today we're taking the next step into JMRI, Java Model Railroad Interface. Okay, and in the first installment or episode, we talked briefly an overview, etc. You download it. I left the link for that in Tip of the Day number 101. And you download it, and then it's just a matter of making sure you connect up to your railroad through, in my case, for Digitrax, a PR4. All right, simple LocoNet cable connected to it, from the DCC system, a USB connected from there to the computer, and then a power plug into the PR4. All right, so let's take a look, and I've already downloaded JMRI. All right, and we can see here is the Panel Pro, Sound Pro, and the Decoder Pro. For all intents and purposes, we're going to start with Decoder Pro because that's where I started. The rest of it gets a lot more, not a lot more, but is ancillary or secondary to Decoder Pro. Decoder Pro is the go-to of all the things on JMRI. It's the thing you utilize the most to start with. So we're going to open up Decoder Pro. Okay, and it opens up to the roster. All right, now if you don't have any, your first time in there, it's not going to have a roster. It'll open up to the screen with some informational stuff, and then you will start going through the new loco. But before we do that, we need to set up the connection between JMRI, the computer, and your layout, your DCC system. So I'm going to go up here to Edit, Preferences. All right, and we get right here a listing of preferences over on the left. And then the system manufacturer, you can scroll through the drop-down menu and set it to the DCC system that you have. I have Digitrax, so that's where I put it. It gave me a drop-down for a number of different ways that Digitrax can connect. I'm connecting with LocoNet PR4. All right. We drop down here, and it wants to know what port. In my case, it sets up COM5. In most cases, it'll select a port for you in advance, but if not, you can go through and set your own COM port. All right. The next thing it wants to know is the type of command station you want to emulate. Okay. In my case, it's my command station is a DCS 210, or Evolution Command Station. Okay? That's not the throttle, that is the command station, the big box. Okay? Connection prefix, and it automatically for Digitrax and LocoNet assigns an L, and it will assign, in my case, LocoNet. Okay? So that's the programming for the DCC system from Digitrax. All right? So that's all there is to the connection. Once all that connects up, you're ready to roll. All right, so we're going to close out the settings, and now we have Decoder Pro. Okay? Simple, easy to use. All right, but it allows us to do some other things. All right, come up here to Actions, and I can load a throttle. Okay, so instead of utilizing my throttle that came with my DCC system, my DT500D, or utilizing either one of my cell phones, I can load up here on my computer a throttle. So I'm going to load a default throttle, and there it is right there. Okay. And I am going to, let's say, we're going to pull a locomotive out here to utilize the demonstration. I'm going to pull out my Proto 2K E7 which address is 9920. And I'm going to set it. And I can hear it firing up over there in the roundhouse. All right, if you kind of look over my shoulder here. Alright, and if you look there, alright, I will slowly bring out so you come out there, and I'll reverse it. I'm going to stop it right there, okay, and I'm going to release it. Grab it. All right, so I've got the locomotive, and you can see the throttle there. I'm going to close out this throttle for a minute. We're going to go back to the screen right here. Well, first of all, let's go over here to the test track, to my programming track. Okay? Now my programming track is hooked up. There's actually 3 tracks here. I'm only showing, you can only see 2 at the moment, but there's 3 tracks. The track in the rear, the one you cannot see, is my DCC test track. And the one that the E7's on right now, that is my programming track. Okay? That track is dedicated to programming. You know, you can program on the main. The problem is it's going to program anything and everything on the main. So I set up and would highly recommend that you set up a programming track. And this track is hooked into the command station directly to a programming track option there. So it's dedicated to nothing but programming. All right? So as we look here, I have the book out, all right, the Digitrax book. Now, you know, if you're going to utilize the throttle, all right, to program, whether it's the Digitrax or whether it's NCE, etc., it can be very complicated, it can be very intimidating, because you have to know what CVs, you know, you look at these tables, there's 4 pages of these tables, all right, here, and you have to know the CV, what the default value is, and what the range for each individual CV is that you want to adjust. And to me, that just seems problematic, okay, to say the least. All right. So, and there is an easier way, and I'm going to show you. And to do that, all right, we're going to go back over here to the screen, the Decoder Pro. All right, and the locomotive I have on the programming track right now is 9920. All right, this one right here. So we're going to bring up that, and I'll walk you through the different stuff. The first thing that gets done is the roster entry, and when you hit that plus add new local option up in the upper left hand corner on the previous screen, you get all this to fill in. You have to give it an ID. Well, I use my initials plus the road number. That's just the naming configuration I use. You can use anything you want. And the idea here is, if you just use the road number and you're at a club layout, you might end up with somebody else's that has the same road number locomotive. They might get mixed up. in this fashion, you can always read the decoder and find out who's the ID and whose it is. Okay? So, my road name is Burlington. The road number is 9920. All of that is on the model. It's a Lifelike Proto 2000. I'm the owner, and I just use my S-Child Koi configuration there. It's an E7. Throttle speed limit is 100% for me. Okay? And I can show you how I limit the speed of a locomotive in another fashion in a little bit. Okay, so we get all that and we save it to roster. Okay, once we save it to roster, it shows up over here. All right. What's the next thing we do? Well, the next thing we need to look at then. Once we do that, we want to go to the basic. All right, we come to the basic, and then we want to change it over from the short address, because default addresses for decoders is typically 3 on the short address. So I want to change it to long 9920. Primary address still remains 3. Extended address is 9920. And it's a long, you get the configuration, you get long or short, and it's going to be long. Normal direction of travel is forward. My speed steps, you have some different options here. You can go to 14 speed step format or the 28-128 speed step format. I go with the recommended 128. Okay? Everything else I leave as is. Now, anytime you make a change here, you have to come down and do write full sheet. All right? Make sure you do that. Then after you write it, come up here, hit save. Okay? Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to check out and make changes to other CVs. At least check on them. The motor, all right? Now, this acceleration, deacceleration rate, right here is where you can add in customization of how fast a locomotive will take off, all right, or build up speed, and how fast or slow it takes for the locomotive to stop. All right? And you can play with those to get it to where you want. And every locomotive, even the same locomotive from the same manufacturer, can be different. Okay? So you play with that and adjust it as you want. Now the next one is the basic speed control. And this is where most are set up. All right? It says use V-start, and it uses this. Okay? Now this is where I go over to speed table. All right? And this is where I adjust my speed max and where I do speed matching. All right? I have, for my railroad, a 70 mile an hour speed limit. I have an AccuTrack 2, so I adjust my max right here down to 70 miles per hour plus or minus 2 miles per hour. Okay? And then typically I just do a match both ends. Now to use this speed table, you got to make sure that you click this button right up here. All right? And the reason being, otherwise you're going to be back on that previous page. You change this and it won't do anything. Okay? So I'm going to use this table. I've set the max. In my case, I match both ends so it flattens out this curve. All right? But you can adjust accordingly if you want. And then again, make sure you write the full sheet. Okay? And once you're done writing the full sheet, what do? You come back here and you hit save. All right? So, what's the next thing we want to look at? Function map. Okay? Here's where your functions are. You can reassign different functions, and every decoder is going to be different. Some of these options are going to be different for different manufacturers' decoders. All right? The decoder I'm working with here is a Digitrax. All right? 16-bit sound decoder. You know, I have in my roster, I have Digitrax, QSI, I have Soundtracks, I think a couple others. Those are the primary ones I have. So it depends on how far you want to delve into prototypical aspects of DCC and the sound as to what decoders you want to go for. Digitrax decoders are my go-to. They may not have the very best sound. To me, it's got adequate sound, and they're reasonably priced. So, anyway, this is where you map out your functions for what you want to do. And then you can go up here to lights, and this is where you can set your different lights. Alright, now on function 3, which is typically the coupling, uncoupling noise, I have wired in my Mars lights for all my E and F units into that function. So when you hit function 3 on the command, on your throttle, on my throttle, alright, it'll turn Mars lights on and off. Okay? But you can set up cab lights, all different types of effects here on the light. You also have analog controls, which I have turned off. You can consist. You can do advanced consisting functions here. What else do we have? We have, oh, sound, yes. In this case, this decoder has the option of GP38 diesel, GE Evo diesel, SD70, GP10, RS1, C420, and then it's got two different steam things. Now, you can, using the Digitrax sound loader, you can download customized sound files for locomotives. Okay? Here's where you adjust your sound levels. Alright. If you want to go back to the book, alright, and adjust CVs the old-fashioned way, you can do it here. Okay. Here's some more Digitrax options. You know, more Digitrax sound file information. So Decoder Pro allows you simply through these drop-down menus to set up and program your locomotives with ease, relative ease, a whole lot, and I mean a whole lot easier than trying to utilize a throttle and going through tables in a book to figure out what CV levels you want, and after every CV change, going to test it. Anyway, you learn it over time and it becomes easier, granted, but the same holds true of utilizing Decoder Pro. Okay? So, that is the down and dirty of Decoder Pro. You know, it is so easy, in my opinion. You know, granted, anything new takes a little time to get used to, but it's a very fast learning curve, and you take little bites at a time. Like, I didn't adjust the acceleration, deceleration rates on my locomotives initially. I just let them at the default, left them at the defaults. And it wasn't until later when, you know, I had trains stopping on a dime that I went in and started adjusting those items so that the train came to a slower ease and had better creep speeds. I have some Athearn F7s that are old and don't have flywheels, so they are the ones that stop on a dime. And I contemplated adding flywheels, changing out motors with flywheels in those locomotives. Well, I didn't have to do that because I could simply go in and adjust the acceleration, deceleration rates in Decoder Pro, and to anything I want. So it really allows you the ease of customization for your locomotive. And again, list price for the PR4 was $90, $89. You can get it for less, and the JMRI software is all free. Okay, so I found it highly worthwhile to eliminate my frustrations with trying to program through a throttle. So anyways, that's your tip of the day today on Decoder Pro. We'll delve into more things as time goes on, but that kind of gives you an overview of Decoder Pro, and we'll look at Panel Pro and all the different functions there, and that I'm still trying to learn. And for those that are more advanced than I am and they're already ready to look at Panel Pro and some of the options, for operations, Robert over at Flying Crow has an excellent series of videos on operations setup with JMRI. So anyway, want to thank you for joining me here on the Retirement Railroad. I'm Steve, and y'all have a great day. Bye now.